Young Japanese are starting to realize what? At this rate, Japan might disappear. This may sound dramatic, but it's already happening. 25-year-old Japanese living alone in Tokyo. I used to fully support immigration because I thought diversity would make the world more interesting. I think diversity does make the world more interesting, but the whole world doesn't need to be in your city. So, like, I'm a big fan of multiculturalism, of diversity. I'm actually a fan of this. I think it's a good thing, but that doesn't mean that you have to combine everything into a massive soup in every single area. I think that different cultures, there's cultures that don't really mix very well together, right? And I think we all know this. I think it's a politically incorrect thing to say, but it's a very factually correct thing to say also, that certain cultures don't mix very well. And that doesn't mean that they can't have interplay. That doesn't mean that they can't have mutual appreciation. That doesn't mean that they can't work together to solve common problems. But it does mean that in day-to-day life, if you have these people living next door to each other, you're going to have problems. You are. That's the way it is. We see my opinions change. Not that I'm against it. And this is what all people are still in this period of time. Like, again, I've always had this viewpoint, and, you know, I probably always will. But I think a lot of people are afraid of being labeled as a racist for being against immigration, especially like large forms of immigration. But I think this is a receding value. I think that in time, people will simply not care, because calling people a racist for being against immigration, I think that this has hit a very large diminishing return. I fear Japan will split into two separate communities. Wow, only two? That's pretty lucky. How about that? I saw a similar scene in Canada. I hear Canada is having a lot of, because I don't like how, I've said this before, I don't like how Indians from India, not Native American, your American Indians, but Indians from India, I don't like how they're treated on social media. I think it's unfair, right? And I'm a big fan of racist jokes. I love racist jokes. I ask any of my real life friends. Okay? I love them. That being said, what I'm not a fan of is the fact that Indians and white people, and to a lesser degree Asians, have this almost permissiveness with allowing racial jokes on their negative, on their behalf negatively, but whenever you're talking about other racial minorities, in some cases, you're not allowed to do them. I think all of it's okay or none of it's okay. That's my viewpoint. Again, I don't like how Indians have been included into that. Yeah, white guilt. Yeah, sure. At their expense. Yeah. And joke and hate is different. I think it's pretty obvious, right? Like, I'm basically a all of the jokes or none of the jokes kind of guy. And if I had to pick, I would go 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000 with all of the jokes. Yeah, you're going to get a few racist people, but we've got them anyway, and the jokes aren't allowed to begin with. So clearly it hasn't stopped anything. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, but in like the 2000s, I feel like a lot of this like racial politics stuff wasn't as front and center as it is now. And this is with Dave Chappelle dressing up as a KKK member. This was with, all kinds of, Rush Hour, Jackie Chan, and was it Chris Tucker, making racist jokes. The entire movie was a racist joke. And everybody was going to see it. Everybody loved it. White people, black people, Asians, Hispanics, everybody loved this movie. How many of you guys watched any of the Rush Hour movies in movie theaters with your parents or by yourself if you're old enough, right? How many of you guys watched one of those movies in movie theaters? The end. All of comedy, all of cinema was building up to the magnum opus, Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder was the pinnacle. It was the peak. It was as good as it was going to get. Everything after Tropic Thunder was worse. Everything before Tropic Thunder was worse. That right there, that was the... If we could just crystallize and keep that society, everything in the world would be perfect, okay? So I've never seen Tropic Thunder. Big mistake. Now you should go to jail. And in fact, Tropic Thunder's peak is so sad. Everything has been trashed since then. Well, some of the movies have, I mean, I think there have been some good, like some good movies. Like This Is the End. I remember watching that one. I like that one. I thought 21 Jump Street was a good movie. Those are just two that come right off the top of my head after Tropic Thunder. But, in a general sense, I think that you're right. But anyway, so yeah, people hate immigration because immigrants never assimilate and respect the country. Well, they don't do that because they are being brought in at levels that they don't have to. It's kind of like, so here's a really good parallel to this. Do you guys ever remember back whenever it was like your first day or your first week in middle school or high school, and you probably sat with all the people that you went to middle school or elementary school with, right? So like, it's your first day of middle school, you find all the people that came from like your elementary school and you're sitting and hanging out with them. And then over time you assimilate into the middle school and then you make new friends, etc., right? I think that if you bring in too many people from one group, they stay at that table. This is like maybe kind of a weird metaphor to make, but I think that it's very personal and a lot of people can relate to it, right? I think that's kind of what happens. And so that's really the issue, or you don't. Well, not everybody's, I mean, every person isn't the same. I'm making generalities. So, yeah. Anyway, and I remember the same thing happened when I was in high school too, etc. And anyway, let's go back. We'll watch this and we'll finish it. I'm going off on another fucking tangent. I apologize. European. See, now I don't want my dad to call me to tell me, move on, stop. He would always complain, just play the fucking video. And he would always, this is the thing, he would always say, Hassan plays videos and he doesn't talk at all. And then you play videos and you can't stop fucking talking. What is wrong with you? Why can't you guys just be in the middle? Because you just sit there and complain about it all the time. And so anyway, yeah, that was it. Anyway, play it. Okay, excuse me. European and Asian exchange students sap differently. Of course they do. Of course. Europeans debated politics and society, while Asians just exchanged small talk and laughed. If things stay the same, Japan will turn to two divided societies, Japanese and foreigners. Politicians in Japan who can't speak English... Wait a second. Can't speak English well? Well, yeah, of course. Language is the tool, so maybe it's okay to not speak it perfectly. But aren't we too naive, too sheltered to face the world as we are now? Well, I don't think that Japanese politicians need to learn another fucking language. If you are in Japan... and you are a Japanese, you're living in Japan, you need to learn Japanese. Okay? They don't need to make everything in English for you. Now, it might be convenient for tourism, etc., and I understand that. But that being said, no. It's the same thing I said here in the U.S. You come to the United fucking States, you gotta speak fucking English, all right? Like, that's the way it is. And so you go to France, you better fucking speak French. You go to, I don't know, India, speak fucking, is it Indian, Hindu? I'm not really sure what the language is, but it's not fucking American, I'll tell you that. And so you go anywhere, you go to Brazil, you speak Portuguese. That's the way it is. Hindi? Yeah, I think so. I'm not 100%. So yeah, duh, of course. Sure. Meanwhile, some foreigners wait, was that Johnny Somali? What was that, like 3 frames, bro? Like 3 frames, I saw his fucking ass. Some foreigners cause trouble in Japan. They do, and y'all made a mistake. See, Korea is based. See, if Korea was really based, I haven't talked about this for a while, so I gotta remind you guys of my great idea. I think the way to bring North Korea into the global economy and to make them a country and to de-radicalize them is to make them the world's prison. And we have Kim Jong-un, and we send everybody who's a problem to North Korea. And so we send Johnny Somali to North Korea. The guy that, went and tried to shoot fucking Charlie Kirk, North Korea. Everybody that's a problem in the entire world goes to North Korea. And that way, it's like the country's already a fucking prison. You might as well make some money off of it, right? And so, yeah, I think they should do that with Johnny Somali. Tried to shoot it. Well, yeah, I mean, he succeeded. I mean, you know what I'm saying, right? But I actually was thinking about Trump, too, and that's why I kind of got confused. But, yeah. Yeah, that new global penal colony drop. Yeah, I think that's the future for North Korea, is it will be the world's super jail for everybody that annoys me. On SNS, crimes are instantly blamed on foreigners. Well, so here's the problem, though, right? Is that they're probably right. I have seen so many people go to Japan and treat it like it's a private server where everything is free and you can do whatever you want. Like they're going around, yeah, they're being obnoxious, they're not wrong, yeah. There's a lot of people that go to countries like Japan, places in the United States, and they go specifically to the PvE servers. You never see them do this shit in Dubai. And that's also a PvE server, because if you break the fucking rules, well, that's it. And so the truth is that because these countries are so permissive, and the reason why they're permissive is because they are high trust society countries that are very well developed and they have a homogenous culture. And so they can allow a higher degree of permissiveness because of that higher degree of trust. But what's happening is that you have foreigners. You got foreigners coming in there and causing all the fucking problems. And that's what's happening over in Japan. It is. And you see videos of it. I'm not making this up. We've all seen it. Everybody knows this is happening. The truth is clear. It is. Absolutely it is. Of course, this makes people uneasy. Fear grows and divisions grow too. I want to see a Japan where diverse people can live together. That's not going to happen. You can have people that live together to a degree, but there is a degree of diversity that becomes untenable. You can't have somebody who wants to, like, you can't have, like, let's say an Islamic fundamentalist that's living next to a person who is trans that, you know, has like 3 adopted kids. Like, this is going to cause issues. And I'm sure that in some cases it works out, but you extrapolate this data and you're going to have problems and problems and problems. And so that's just what's going to happen. True story. Yeah, it's just how it is. So this is naive. I think that there is a degree of multiculturalism, a degree of multiracialism that works. I think most multiracialism pretty much can work unless people are assholes, but especially multiculturalism, there's a degree of it that works, but extremism is the problem. And the issue is that whenever you have a lot of people that don't integrate, if you want to go to Japan, you want to change Japan and make Japan more like you, more like where you came from, go back to where you came from. That's my viewpoint with every country in the world. If you want to make China more like where you came from, get the fuck out of China. If you want to make America more like where you came from, get the fuck out of America. That's my opinion. It's so obnoxious, patronizing, and fucking entitled. It's so entitled, isn't it? How obnoxious. Oh, God. From your side, how does Japan look? Japan looks like, this is my perspective on Japan. Japan looks like a country that is on the brink of a inevitable collapse because of its what do you call it? Of its birth rates. And I think this is something that's existential. It's happening to South Korea also. It's happening to a couple of countries in Europe, and it's happening in general. Now, why is this happening? I think there's like 10 different reasons, and honestly, I don't really know all the reasons, but it is obviously happening. It's happening here in the US. Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's low spawn rates, right? And a lot of people are despawning faster than they're spawning. Then you're going to have the server be empty, right? That's what happens. And so anyway, that's where I think things are. And I think also Japan is becoming more and more what do you call it? More and more xenophobic because people go to Japan and they treat Japan like it's an anime. Like I don't know if really the word is dehumanize because it's an entire culture and a group of people, but like I'll give you an example of this. So this is kind of what's happening, right? Tourists are poking holes in the screen erected to block photos from Mount Fuji. Yeah, there we go, right? And this is the kind of stuff that I find to be so just incredibly disrespectful and just entitled. Tourists are poking holes in the screen erected to block photos from Mount Fuji. Get the fuck out of Japan. Get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? What are you doing going to a country that they clearly don't want you to do it? The guys, yeah, what is this here? Chinese tourist Well, that's the thing, right? Is that what's really great about China becoming more modernized and, industrialized is that China is the other country with asshole fucking tourists. Is that back in the day, every tourist that was being an asshole in another country, it was always an American, right? But now China is doing their part. And now there's a bunch of Chinese tourists that go out all over the world, and now they're carving their name on the pyramids. Now they're trying to fucking poke holes and stuff like this. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Russians are notorious for being asshole tourists. Yeah, my dad told me that the Japanese people called Russians Americans with no dollars. This is back because my dad visited Japan for like the World Fair in like the fucking 60s or late 60s, early 70s because he was in Vietnam. And so, yeah, he told me about that. And yeah, Americans with no dollars and Israelis are the worst. Yeah, I'd never heard that before. No, my dad has a lot of there is a lot of ancient text racism and xenophobia that I've never heard before except from my dad. He was I think he might have been one of the only people that still existed in the world that remembered that type of racism. There it is. And anyway, so the wizard, yeah, he passed it down as much as he could, right? And I do my best to carry things forward. But yeah, that's pretty much where things are right now. And so this is so obnoxious. It's so obnoxious, so annoying. And in general, I don't know why anybody, Japan should not put up with this at all. In my opinion, if you're doing this, they should just say you're destroying property and, you're getting fucking deported immediately and you're never coming back. Like, it's amazing that the Japanese people put up with this, and I think that they shouldn't. It's very, very weird. And I think that they are, it's not a pleasant conversation to have, and it's not a nice thing to do, but sometimes you have to do things that aren't nice in order to maintain things that are nice. And I think that Japan is in that situation. I think that in a lot of cases, America is in that situation. And I think that every country gets into that situation every once in a while. So that's pretty much what I think.